Up bright and early. Good morning. Welcome to the morning brief. It's Wednesday, September the 11th. Well, it's 7-11 in some places. We know what that means. But in this part of the world, 9-11, not 7-11, 9-11. I'm not going back. But in this part of the world, we say good morning. Welcome to the morning brief.
Yes, indeed. And we're live for you here in the nation's commercial capital. Good morning and welcome. I am Bukola Koka.
And I'm Jeffrey Uzoma. How you hanging in with the situation of the country? And well, for me, I really like sports, but I couldn't watch the match because I missed the timing. But I saw a few things. I don't know where Rwanda people took us to that we're not able to get a point. Okay, we got a point. We weren't able to get a goal. I wanted to say, but I wanted to come back to say, oh, we did it again. But for whatever reason, Kigali was not as favorable as Gospel Akpabio's International Stadium. But at least we're able to drag in one because away matches are always quite tricky, especially when it comes to qualifiers. Everybody wants to be there, but we're proud of the boys. They'll keep doing better. The next match, I think, is October the 6th in Uyo. So we'll consolidate on what we did against Benin Republic. So let's hear it plays out eventually.
So are we still in love with Augustine Eguavon, the interim technical advisor?
No, nobody. I don't think anybody actually
these things change with the tide.
I know where you're coming from. And we understand these things. Okay? First match, if you win, you mistakenly lose the second match. Yeah.
He didn't lose.
Exactly.
Didn't lose,
this was a draw. And it's important to say that he was actually just meant to take over for those matches. He's the technical director of the NFF, right? So it doesn't really matter whether you love or hate what he did. He's meant to go back to being the technical director of the NFF. So it was good to see the way the boys played. I mean, you have to give it to Rwanda, their goalkeeper. You have to give it to the pitch as well, which wasn't very good. You have to give it to the referee as well. So we have to give it to a lot of people for that, but we need to commend our boys and say we expect always the best and we'll support you as much as we can. But guys, while that match was going on, a lot of attention, global attention was fixed on one thing, the presidential debate in the US between the vice president, who is now the presidential candidate of the Democratic Party, Kamala Harris, and former president, who's the candidate of the Republicans, Donald Trump. Now, my approach to this is not even about the debate itself. I'm not going to get into the content of the debate, the back and forth, the fact-checking, who won, who didn't win, how that affects the perception and the polls. What I want to draw from this is Nigeria's situation. A lot of people...
Well,
I know, right? A lot of people watch that debate and they're like, way to go. And in fact, in the coming days, they will draw examples from it that, in other democracies, this is how it is done, and that's what we're doing it there. But guess what? Presidential election in Nigeria, we didn't have a debate. That is when we heard that, no, debates don't really matter. Let's have town halls instead. And that just fell through. Governorship elections, Edo State's governorship election is coming.
It's coming. Ondo is coming as well. People
are pulling out because they don't want to do debate. They don't want to stand before the people. Forget whoever is asking the questions. Forget whatever issues you have with other candidates. You owe it to the people to stand before them and defend your ideas, answer questions. But guess what, guys? It even trickles down to local government elections. Local government candidates, pardon me, Bukola, the chairman, are pulling out of debates. It just shows that there is flagrant disregard for the people that you want to govern. So I don't know if this is part of the amendment for the Electoral Act, but it has to be there. If you're not attending debates, if you're not able to stand before the people and defend your ideas, you don't have a business being on the ballot.
Well, Kade, in fairness to some candidates ahead of the 2023 presidential elections, they had made themselves available to the continuing process of scrutiny by attending, making media appearances on television, on radio, and being available for engagement, even on social media. So to that extent, one may want to remove some candidates from this particular assessment, but not all of the candidates. And it ties pretty much with what Kade is saying. It's a democracy, and democracy is about upholding values, certain tenets that, make it important for the people to be able to also demand accountability once those candidates make it to the offices that they're seeking to occupy. Perhaps this is also reminiscent of what Jeffrey has been saying time and again about the need for the Edo State governorship candidate to make himself available, to the media for engagement, such that the people can make up their minds when they hear what the ideas the candidate and the party is putting forward, for the transformation of the lives of the people in line with their expectations about what they want, what they interpret as the dividends of democracy. But we haven't quite seen that. And what's democracy all about if we can't come up close with those who are seeking to occupy office?
For me, it's just this candidate taking the citizens for granted. It's as simple as that. They just take people for granted. And the sense of lack of accountability. And no thanks to President Bola Tinubu, he led the pack in that direction.
In fact, the former president, Buhari, had done the same thing too.
Initially, Buhari before 2020, the elections, before he came into power, he had done I think one.
No, that was the first coming.
His first coming, he did. So that's why I didn't want to count him first. His first coming, he did some debates with the station. I think it was President Jonathan that didn't come to one of the debates and later came to another debate. But by the second coming of President Buhari, he just said, forget, this debate is not important. And their attempts were made to get President Bola Tinubu to debate. He did not. He turned down. In fact, he rather went to town halls and went to Chatham House. I know I did a report from that and did presentation. But sitting down with journalists in Nigeria or a journalist in Nigeria to do debate, no, the president didn't do it. The same thing happened to Usman Ododo. So I'm calling names now, so I'm not guessing. And now we're having the issue of the APC candidate, Senator Monday Okpebholo. So I can go on and on. So when the highest office in the land has shown that example, at least in this dispensation, what do you expect from the people? So to an extent, is just the leadership taking the people for granted. There's a reason for debate. It's just to know what you have up there to serve the people. If not for debate, perhaps we wouldn't have known how bad the situation of Joe Biden was. Joe Biden coming out and deciding not to continue with the election wasn't because of age, it was because of health. So we're very clear on that. He was almost 90, is it 90?
But he still debated.
Yeah, he debated.
He debated with Donald Trump.
Even with his health, he debated at the end of the day.
So don't give us the health or age
thing. From President Bola Tinubu to Usman Ododo to now Monday Okpebholo, we can go on and on. Local government. So that's what I'm saying. Now, if at the presidential level that can happen, and I heard the president saying, Chatham House, okay, they want me to come and talk to the media. Because, his own was interview. So let's pause it, interview. Because I'm a brand. I'm not coming. Come on, man.
I wonder if these things come with power, with the occupation of office, and they believe that they're high above there and they can't interact with the people.
Yeah, that's the mentality. But the people now need to show that we own the power. If the people had said, nope, if you're not speaking to us, we're not voting. Both APC and others, if if you're not speaking to us, we're not voting for you, they'll have a reason.
Let me tell you how.
And that's another level of a debate.
I've forgotten one person, Siminala Ifubara of Rivers State, did not show up for any interview. As I remember their names, we'll continue to call them.
Yes.
The point is that what I feel, because I have learned on this job, and as an adult at my age, that the way citizens process is different from the way politicians process. Politicians have seen that no debates, that doesn't necessarily affect outcome. So why should they debate? But if we begin to make debate to cost people how they get into power, then trust me, these politicians, they follow the crowd. They will debate.
So we'll keep at this, ensure that those in government don't take the people for granted. If they do, you shouldn't take them for granted. You need to ask for what is rightfully yours. But let's unpack on the show this morning. We're beginning with the shocking images from Maiduguri, guys. Those images came through and a lot of people were shocked, thinking, is this in Borno State today? Oh, yes. We've seen Floods submerging that city, thousands of lives uprooted, people displaced, school resumption put on hold as Alo Dam burst. But this morning we're asking what exactly is going on with the trend of flooding in northern Nigeria. So it's not just Maiduguri in Borno State that has been affected. We've seen Kaduna, Jigawa, Adamawa, Taraba, amongst others. So join this very urgent conversation to uncover the causes, consequences, and crucial next steps to stem the tide of destruction and rebuild shattered lives.
That's quite a number of states you mentioned there. But away from that, we're not quite done with the petrol price hike. Insecurity, climate change, and pest infestations, in addition to that, converge to threaten Nigeria's agriculture sector, putting 82 million people at risk of hunger by the year 2030. That's according to the UN. So join this critical conversation yet again as we explore targeted solutions to easing doing business, boost productivity, and fortify the agriculture value chain against this gathering storm. What's the outlook for the coming months?
Well, that will not be all. We'll sit down with the man who made this line as it is sweet to us, it is pain them famous. We not only find out what is sweeting him, allow our English, this is Niger, but his journey as a gospel musician who became famous for playing for politicians, including governors, and some of the misconceptions that may have come along the way as far as this great guy is concerned.
I can bet you that at some point on this show, we're probably going to sing that line. So,
yes, some guys people say, actually, they say, as it is sweet as they pay them, let's leave them.
right? So that is on the brighter side, or at least on the lighter note on the show this morning. You can be a part as well. Hashtag CTV Morning Brief. Send us your comments if you've got videos happenings, particularly in Maiduguri and wherever you may be that has been affected by flood. Send them in. Hashtag CTV Morning Brief across social media. You can just head over to our YouTube page, drop your comments, and we'll definitely pick them up. So let's get started this morning with the top stories making the rounds. These stories will, of course, form a major part of our conversation. We don't want you to be in the dark. That's in a few seconds, so stay with us. We'll begin with the devastation in northeast Nigeria, Borno State, where several roads, houses in Maiduguri, the state capital, have come under heavy impact from floodwaters. So residents of the affected communities have been forced out of their homes and business areas, and they're seeking respite in other city centers. The floodwaters comes after days of torrential rains and the reported opening of Alo Dam to prevent a break prison wall located along the custom area was broken by the flood as some inmates are reported to have drowned, while several others escaped for their lives. But that's not all. Vice President Kashim Shettima has visited Maiduguri, the Borno state capital, where he's gone for an on-the-spot assessment. And during his visit, he gave an assurance that the administration of President Bola Tinubu will tackle the challenges of flood in Nigeria by developing a comprehensive roadmap. And they see the vice president wading through water. He also noted that though the factors leading to the ravaging flood and other recurring disasters in the country are diverse, the recent flood has ravaged several houses in the metropolis, including the Sheikh's Palace, University of Maiduguri Teaching Hospital, Sanda Kirima Park Zoo, some of the main infrastructures that have been affected. Well, we'll continue to stay with that situation in Borno State and bring you an on-the-spot reporting this morning. But let's tell you about the drama playing out between security agencies and the president of the NLC, Joe Ajaero, as the Nigerian Labour Congress has vowed to continue its fight and demands for good governance despite the arrest and eventual release of its president, Comrade Joe Ajaero. Comrade Ajaero was arrested on Monday morning while on his way to address the International Conference of the International Trade Union Confederation in the UK. Well, the head of information and public affairs at the NLC, Mr. Benson Upa, stated this during an interview with Channels Television in Abuja.
To the best of our knowledge, at the time of his arrest, no reason was given, and we consider it an act of state harassment. We're in a police state, but we find that quite embarrassing, not because we do not know the character of the regular police state, but that the people perpetrating this evil themselves were once called themselves champions of democracy. And we have them here on video clips, chanting, saying all manner of things against previous governments at Ojota. If anybody within this administration thinks by harassing Joe Ajaero or by monitoring the executives of NLC, tapping their phones, invading their privacies and all of that, that they will take us off our trajectory, they'll be making a very costly mistake, because Nigerians are with us on this. I want to tell you this.
Well, let's hear from the government, which is terming as wrong and false accusations of human rights abuse in the aftermath of the arrest of the NLC president, Mr. Joe Ajaero, who was stopped from traveling abroad. And according to a statement by a special advisor on information and strategy to President Tinubu, Sabayo Nanuga, the Trade Union Congress in the United Kingdom opened its conference in London with its leader, in the words of Mr. Nanuga, making claims about human rights abuses and violations in Nigeria based on what he described as a misunderstanding of a situation on ground. Mr. Nanuga stated that Comrade Ajaero was picked up after he reportedly snubbed the invitation of a law enforcement agency conducting an ongoing investigation which has nothing to do with his position as NLC president. Well, let's talk some security now. The Armed Forces of Nigeria is again assuring Nigerians and all residents that the military, in collaboration with other security agencies, is working tirelessly to arrest Bela Turji, a bandit kingpin operating along the Sokoto-Zamfara state axis. Addressing a news conference in Abuja after a meeting of service chiefs and heads of other security agencies, the Chief of Defense Staff, General Christopher Musa, vows to capture the bandit kingpin in addition to neutralizing other criminal elements terrorizing the nation.
Like I said, he's just a deranged individual that feels power, but I can bet you that it's just a matter of time a matter of time, we're going to get this here, and I can assure you, within the shortest possible time, we're going to address that issue on the issue of payment. That is what they live on, and it shows you the desperation they are in. One, even when they get the money, they don't have where to use it. Two, is that the money they're getting, they know it's blood money.
Now, the Nigerian Navy's forward operating base Formoso has handed over vessel MV Bravo Alero laden with approximately 200,000 liters of suspected illegally refined automotive gas oil, along with its 3 crew members, to the EFCC for further investigation and possible prosecution. According to Commanding Officer of FOB Formosa, Navy Captain Ifeanyi Chukwu Charles Mabeku, who was represented by the Executive Officer Commanding, said that by quick response on June the 8th, they actually arrested that vessel. The handover took place in Brass Island, Mayelsa State. And ahead of the Edo State governorship election on September the 21st, the Commissioner of Police has given assurances of security agencies' determination to ensure that the exercise is peaceful as security officers begin to clamp down on people with illegal firearms. The police chief gave the assurance at a meeting of Interagency Consultative Committee meeting on election security in Benin City, the state capital. Well, the chairman of INEC, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, is also optimistic that the exercise will be a success.
Satisfied with both the level of preparation of our local government offices and the 3 offices were visited, Oredo, Ego, and Ikpoboha, as well as the 2 centers were visited for the mock exercise. I think we are good to go, both for voter accreditation as well as the upload of the results to the IRF portal.
We are not happy with possession of illegal arms by individuals, non-state actors, and so we are clamping down on them. All we have to do in the interest of a safe environment for the election. I assure you that we have enough manpower. We have support from state organizations, and we are really prepared for the election. But primarily, I have to assure you that we have units that are coming in. Before now, our intelligence units have been in town. They're already in town. And so we're able to filter information, get information, work on them, process them, and see how we could nip most of this in the board. Some of the arrests that are made, which I'm sure is a bit uncomfortable for some people, is because we want to make the area comfortable.
And the chairman of the EFCC, Mr. Olaolukoyede, has announced that the commission will soon be prosecuting bank executives involved in corruption. Speaking at the 17th annual conference of the Chartered Institute of Bankers of Nigeria, Mr. Olukoyede says the commission's findings reveals complicity in money laundering, illegal forex tax, or sales rather, and trading among bank officials. Well, let's check on the price of crude oil. The global benchmark crude oil price, Brent, dropped by 3.91%, falling below $70 per barrel for the first time since December 2021. Well, U.S. crude also fell by 3.79%, trading at $65 per barrel. The drop adds pressure on Nigeria's naira, now near 1,600 naira to a dollar, and challenges the government's 2024 budget, which set oil at $77 per barrel. And outside the country, yes, all eyes are on the U.S. presidential debate outcome between Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump. But let's tell you that Ukraine targeted the Russian capital on Tuesday in its biggest drone attack so far, killing at least 1 and wrecking dozens of homes in the Moscow region and forcing around 50 flights to be diverted from airports around Moscow. Well, this is a developing situation, and we'll bring you more updates from what has been described as the biggest attack by Ukraine so far. And out of sports news, the interim coach of the Super Eagles, Augustine Iguavoin, is expected to return to his technical director role in the NFF, that's the Nigerian Football Federation, following the 2 AFCON qualifier matches against Benin and Rwanda. The NFF had appointed Iguavoin as the team's interim coach following its inability to secure the services of German coach Bruno Labbadia due to stringent German tax laws. Well, this is his 4th stint in charge of the Nigerian national team, having previously managed a team from 2005 to 2007. In 2010, and again in 2022. And those are the top stories making the rounds this morning. Well, there's a lot of back and forth about whether or not Iguavoin should be retained as the coach of the Super Eagles. But what do you have to say about the big stories from the flood to other reports? Well, Jeffrey joins me right now to walk through your comments. Jeffrey, what do we have?
Well, as a matter of fact, let me piggyback from Iguavon's. He's done a great job. He was just there to cover up, just standing, sitting for someone. And I think he's done his bit. Whatever the decision of the NFF and anybody is, I guess, let him just continue to do his work.
Right.
This is not the first time. This is not the second time. This is, I think, about the third time or so, or fourth time he's been doing this work. So we're super, super excited that whenever they call him in, sometimes like this, he does his job. But it's for the boys now to do what they can. Of course, for me, the boys should just take responsibility for the Super Eagles at this point, because it looks like the NFF and the administrators don't have their acts together. That is the truth.
So the boys should step up. If
so the boys should just,
the adults are not stepping up, the boys
should just do the work and forget the NFF until the NFF, put themselves together. Because I'm wondering why you have a contract with a coach and you didn't conclude that contracts, and then you went public, and then you're now explaining to us how, this clause was not there, that clause was not there. Did you agree that you should go public? And also, that's what Austin Okonokman used to say, that administrators are the biggest problem in sports. And the Honorable Minister has always complained that for him, like as a minister, unlike other ministers, he can't interfere in these associations, or yes, that's what they call them. These federations, I should say, because there are strong laws against government interference and all of that. But let's get straight to what you're saying on X. DSS releases Joe Ajero, the NLC president, and seized his passport. Well, we didn't get all the details as to what played out.
Even though it's been reported that the passport has now been released.
Okay. So Kenneth says, the Nigerian Labour Congress leader released from detention is highly commendable, but I advise the authorities to respect Nigerians.
And Victor Sampson is next, saying they want to intimidate him and the workforce. That's what this user believes. What was his offense? What did he do? Which I imagine, what was his offense? Same thing. Why is it that no one is saying it? And I think they gave some insight into that, but whether or not that is enough is another thing entirely.
Okay, so Kosi Okoisi said he's still imprisoned. You can't go, I guess he wanted to say he can't go for his conference to represent NLC globally. Shameful. That's you.
It's been released. The passport, we understand, has been released as well. But whether or not he can attend that event, I think that's the point you're trying to make there. And Miriam NG is next, saying they didn't plan to really keep him. I believe they target his passport, and now that they have it, from now on, Ajero will feel like he's in bondage. But then they don't have the passport anymore. So it's a developing story. I know a lot of people responded to the previous report, but right now the update is that the passport has been released to him. But we'll see what the next line of action will be.
Okay, let's talk about the flood in Borno. Professor Edwin, this is a serious climate change concern. It may become necessary for the state and federal authorities to declare a state of emergency on these affected areas and swiftly with the police and military services to assist our people from every angle. Totally agree.
Idiongo Udo has this one to say, and a lot of people are shocked, we must say, by those images. We'll get into that, but we want to see what you have to say. Then we'll go to Maiduguri to bring you live updates. This is so disheartening to hear this from an already endangered state. There's urgent need for sustainable urban planning and better flood management systems in many Nigerian cities. So the question is, which city is next? We should ask that question and ensure that we don't see more devastation by taking action.
Narrowscope says this seems like a natural seismic that affects the effect would have been constrained if the government had made some environmental control to mitigate the effect of this abrupt natural disaster.
So there you go. The question is, what has the government done about this? We saw the Vice President, Kashim Shettima, visiting Maiduguri. In fact, he was almost waist deep in the water at some point. And it was quite tricky. They had to try to help him to get out of it. And that's the situation. And there you go. That's the situation for a lot of people in Maiduguri this morning. He had to take off his shoes.
Yeah. And I can imagine it's very personal to him. He was governor for 8 years in this state.
Yeah.
So I can imagine how he feels. He's used to what is going on, but this was another level for him. So I think it was going to the Shew's palace.
Yeah.
which was also affected. The teaching hospital was affected, homes, businesses, livelihood. It's really a bad situation.
I must say that it's good to see. I mean, it's a good thing to see when your leaders, when they come to ground zero
Identify
with you, with you. We
It
understand
says
that
a lot.
animals were seen on the streets from the zoo, crocodiles, reptiles, and the
So
rest.
the people have to be careful.
Very careful. That's usually the aftermath of flood in these areas, particularly. So we understand that President Tinubu has ordered NEMA's intervention and is also pledging federal government support. A lot of people are asking, the president should have also visited. Well, the vice president said the president asked him to visit. Whether or not that is enough is another case entirely. But this user, Okoli Steven, says that he needs to visit the victims as well. Oh, taken right out of my mouth. Not just to express concern as usual. Initiate evacuation team that will assist the victims and reintegrate them into a new environment. But is that enough to send the vice president? This user says it is not enough.
Okay, Afro Connect says a devastating flood experience for the people of Borno. May God make it easier on the residents of that state and that city. You have the next one, Kadi.
Oh, yes. Let's see. I think this is just also in terms of the intervention that has been put in place. And this user, I think Eniola says, awesome. In addition, the state environmental agencies should be held accountable. There must have been a threat before now, and this awful flood has destroyed many properties. And it says, so far, they have not recorded fatality. So that's what Eniola says.
All right, Eberian Wobia says, that's what we keep hearing all the time. Condolences, no action to prevent such future occurrences. To Fiakwa. Well, the president has given some, direction on what to do to intervene as soon as possible. But I guess that's much we can take as far as your comments are concerned on X. But keep them coming. We'll try to accommodate as much as we can.
All right.
The show is about you.
So we'll take a moment now. We're back in a few seconds. We're starting off with that all-important conversation around flood in Maiduguri. We'll dovetail into food items. It's a big package this morning. So stay with us. We'll unravel what is going on in Maiduguri in just a moment. Join us again.
Welcome back to the program, and we're starting with the environment, the Borno floods to be specific, and the images are quite disturbing. I just saw one of a young man trying to help his father wade through the flood. We've heard also about mass displacement, people moving their belongings practically to the IDP camps, and some are saying they're being pursued by the floods even as they move. And also, that is not confirmed now. There are also reports about corpses being washed ashore as a result of the flood. And we commiserate with the victims at this point in time. But let's make sense of all of this, particularly because Nigeria's vulnerability to floods had been talked about time and again by the Meteorological Agency prior to this time. So joining us to help us make sense of all of this is from Borno State, the Director General, Borno Agency for Green Great Wall, Ambassador Aliyu Usman, who joins us via Zoom. Good morning and welcome to the Morning Brief on Channels Television. Ambassador Aliyu. Mr. Aliyu, good morning. Okay, I'm just going to proceed with the question in the hope that you can hear me. Okay, we can't connect through to Mr. Aliyu right now, so we're just going to wait to see how we can sort that out. But in the meantime, the images from Borno State are very, very disturbing. We saw the vice president there, practically knee-deep into the flood. But the predictions had come for a number of states about how they were going to experience floods prior to this time. And what is even more disturbing is what is contributing to this, which is, the release of water from the dam. There are reports that the ikes of the dam broke and there is continuing water leakage. So the question is, how did we get here in the first place? What was the impact assessment as a result of the warning by the Meteorological Agency? Why are responses to tackling such impending climate disasters, why is it reactive rather than proactive? The president, of course, has indeed ordered NEMA to provide relief. But how do we prevent such reoccurrences in the future? How do we, stop what we now describe as the inevitable, losing lives to what could have been avoided? Guys.
So at the end of the day, it's about taking responsibility, as we already mentioned. There are things that, you can't prevent. Nature will always have its course. Things like flooding, some of these natural disasters. We're even lucky. We have just very minimal. We don't have some we see in places like China and the US and some other places. But where we have a problem, and we always call government out, is measures put in place ahead of this. So natural disaster, flood, rains, and all of that, they're not a surprise. They're like pregnancy. You expect them to come. You expect these things to happen. So there's nothing like, I'm surprised this is happening. So we're not saying that this cannot be overwhelming, but what has been put in place in the first place to even mitigate or reduce the impact, that is where the challenge always is. Because if you really probe some of the funds for ecological funds, as it's called, you'll be shocked. The level of alleged corruption that we see in some of this money. I've seen a situation in 2012 or so. There was a flood incident in one part of the southern state. And what we realized was the fact that the monies that were released, the governor was quite livid. Some people were actually taking chunk of this money to do whatever it is they want to do. I think our guest is ready, Kukola.
Yes, indeed. Mr. Aliyu, good morning again. Can you hear me now? Mr. Aliyu, good morning. Oh dear.
Well, we understand that the terrain might be quite tricky in Maiduguri. This has also affected infrastructure, not just buildings and the rest. And you can see these images. For a lot of people, they're still dealing with the shock. Because when you want to list states that are most likely going to be affected by flood yearly, Borno State should not be top 10 or maybe even top 15 in their mind. So when they see I mean, these images. I mean, look at that crocodile.
That's
We
a
understand.
crocodile.
Of course, quite gory, really, seeing that. But it's just the aftermath of the flooding, and look at people having to wade through that. So it's shocking for a lot of people. What exactly is playing out? A combination of different things, as we heard, but we're going to get you more details. But that is the state for a lot of people. This is not a flash flood. Okay, this is rain combined with the dam and all of that. But again, as I said earlier on, this is Borno State, Maiduguri. People imagine it's a dry state, not a wet state. If you see images like this coming from Lagos, you say, "Oh yes, Lagos
is a coastal area."
Exactly,
You know,
but not
coastal.
Borno State.
So it's very disturbing to see. But this brings to fore some of the level of infrastructure that they built. So if this can happen in Borno State, talk about every other state in Nigeria. So I believe that the vice president had mentioned that there is a roadmap, some sort of a roadmap to some of these issues as far as the issue of environment is concerned. And we hope that if those books were hiding somewhere, they should be brought out, dust off everything that is on it, and look at it yet again to reflect current reality. Because you can imagine how many people are not going to school, how many people are not going to work, how many people cannot even move around freely. A lot of things are affected. Even the danger it poses to health. That's another angle altogether. Because with this comes its own health concerns as well. So the Sheu's palace, the teaching hospital, the zoo, businesses, and all of that. But let's see whether we can get Miss Ali. Miss Ali, can you hear us?
Hello, Mr. Liu.
Yes. Hello. Good morning.
Okay, good morning. Finally. So, first of all, perhaps you can provide us with updates. It's been days of rain and then the release of water from the dam, from what we hear. These are the current images that we have. But what does it look like right now in Borno State? Are the waters receding, and how are people faring, the displaced? How are they faring in Bakassi IDP camp?
Yes. Good morning from Maiduguri. Yeah, the water has started receding compared to yesterday. And this is as a result of the water is not fully coming from the Lagdo Dam and Alau Dam. So currently, the water has reduced to a little minimal level where people can pass across some areas that people cannot pass as of yesterday. So currently, a lot of people, government has provided so many places for the displaced people to live. A lot of Good Samaritan has also offered a place for these fully displaced people to live for a while. And in some axes where there is no place for them, some people are on the street, some people are under trees, some people has found somewhere to even pass the night. As I go around yesterday, most of streets were fully covered, but people that didn't get a place to live, because government has provided schools, the Bakassi camp, and other tertiary institutions for people to live for now, until when the water recede completely, so that government can see how they can relocate people to a safer place. But because of now we are on emergency, so everybody that can get a little place to live for a while. But we are hoping in the next 2 or 3 days, the water will reduce to almost maybe 20 or 30%. But the problem now we are forecasting is, flood go with disease outbreak. So definitely there is a need for the government and the individual to see how this disease outbreak can be addressed, because definitely flood goes with a disease outbreak. So for now, people are calm. A lot of people are providing the token they have. As of yesterday, from yesterday to today, I have received a donation of almost 600,000 to buy bread and a cake for people to at least, because a lot of people has lost their valuable property. Some of the people, they have to go out before getting their daily food, and now nobody can go out at least to get something to eat. But we thank God, a lot of good Samaritans, a lot of people, even the government are distributing food for people on the street, in the camp, and so on and so forth. Thank you.
Mr. Hausman, great to hear the update that is coming from you and by extension from the state. But this is why government exists. So I would want to find out, by your estimation, I know it's quite early and preliminary to do this, but by estimation, have you been able to see an average of what it will cost to restore the things that have been destroyed, and how much intervention is required in the immediate term, and what you're seeing being done to ensure that the people don't suffer already what they are dealing with? I'm talking about medical supplies. I know you've mentioned money, but one of the urgent things that is needed right now is medical supplies. So I would like your response on that.
Yes, I think a huge amount is needed for now, because what has happened now, a lot of property, houses, and source of livelihood has already been depleted as a result of this flooding. And to be honest with you, the current situation has exceeded during Boko Haram, because during Boko Haram there is less destruction of houses, but currently there is a mass destruction of houses. There's mass destruction of source of livelihood for people. So there is a need of huge amount, in billions or in the millions of dollars, in order to restore the lost property and to provide a source of livelihood and a source of daily source of income for people. And seriously, medical attention is highly needed as of now. Because yesterday I was at Maiduguri
Mr. Ali?
University Teaching Hospital. The water has flowed. Yes.
No, go ahead.
Hello, can you hear me?
Please go ahead, Mr. Ali.
Yes, and yesterday I'm a live witness of all these places that was being depleted by this flooding, taken from the Lagos Bridge, Teaching Hospital, and so.
All right.
Yes, so as of yesterday, I was at.
Yes, you can land on that point. I understand that there's been some interference, but you were talking about your visit to the hospital. All right, we'll get Mr. Liu back. We understand.
Hospital and the water to upstairs and cancer center, which about billions of naira was used to buy this equipment, and this cancer center has been flooded. So you see, there's a huge amount of money needed to replace those sophisticated machines that treat cancer patients and other disease in the hospital. Coming to General Hospital has been also been fully overstretched by some people that were caught in the flooding, because a lot of along the shore of the river Ngada, I was a living witness of which there are some people that we have to invite divers to even save their life, because they were on top of roofs right from about 3 o'clock yesterday, 3 a.m. yesterday, up to 4 p.m. where the divers rescue them. So you see, there is a situation because a lot of people are
Right.
traumatized now.
All right,
Not
Mr.
even to
Liu.
eat, but they are completely traumatized.
Right. Let me quickly come in here.
A quick intervention.
Right.
Support.
Right. If you can hear me, Mr. Liu, let me quickly come in here. Two issues I want you to speak to. One, death toll. Have you recorded deaths? If you have, how many? Because there have been, different reports out there. So I want you to speak to that. The second one, which is also important to people, is the cause of this. The vice president. Pardon me, Mr. Liu. Pardon me. The vice president had said that this is a combination of different factors, right? So I want you to speak to the progression. How much of this is as a result of rainfall? How much of this is as a result of the Alao and Lagdo Dam? Did they break? Was the water released? What exactly happened? So two, the death toll, and then the cause.
Yeah, actually, this is a result of, or is an evidence of climate change, as well as effect of climate change. And coming to, if you are to look at climate change range, it range between 0 year to 30 to 35 years. So if you can consider 1994 flooding, today is almost 30 years. So definitely is as a result of climate change. And this climate change is caused by human activities, being socio-economic activities and anthropogenic activities. And this is a human-induced factors. Why? Because you will see within the Maiduguri metropolis, the waterways has been developed by people, illegally developed by people, and most of drainage system around the Maiduguri metropolis has been clogged as a result of human ignorantly disposing their waste in the drainage system. So most of the causes of this flooding is attributed to human factor, because even the climate change we are talking of is as a result of anthropogenic and socio-economic component activities of man. Man induces a pollutant in the air, being methane gases, CO2, and chlorofluorocarbon. All these are gases that causes what we are facing today, being the global warming, being the depletion of ozone layer that has led to a heavy downpour.
Hello, Mr. Liu.
Because for a heavy ozone layer, this allow ultraviolet rays to hit the ground, and these are the process of cloud formation. So also another contributing factor is from the water from the Lagdo Dam and Alao Dam. This water has.
So pardon me, Mr. Liu, if I may quickly come in there. Even though, some measure of this is due
overflow
to...
its bank.
If you can hear me,
the
Mr.
channel
Liu.
of the river. And we have also two rivers. We have two rivers coming from Gadabul.
Mr. Liu, if I may come in there.
River Gada. So there is a confluence. Okay.
Yes, so even though some of this can be attributed to human activity, in April this year, the Meteorological Agency had predicted that 31 states would experience excessive flooding, 249 local governments covered in that information, and Borno State is one of them. So wouldn't we be right to say that some of this has actually caught the state government napping, and not just Borno now, but perhaps other states that are experiencing excessive flooding as a result of days of rain?
Yeah.
Mr. Liu, did you get that? Hello, Mr. Liu.
Honestly, the government has even living on the areas of flood-prone area. Hello?
Yes, go ahead. We can hear you now.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, I said the government, there was a time we have state information, geographic information system has marked out all these people living on the flood-prone areas and the waterways. And the government has compensated some to leave, to vacate those areas, but they refuse to vacate. and I'm a living witness of that. So you see, people has also contribute immensely to this flooding, because government has given you money to vacate, but you refuse to vacate. And there is a public awareness that has been going around, of which I'm part of that team carrying out environmental impact awareness. With the issue of Borno is among the expected state that will be flooded this year. Honestly, I also been part of those create awareness that people should vacate right from the inception of a rainfall. I have appeared in television, I have appeared in the radio stations, creating awareness, as well as telling people on all these social media handle. If you can go to my social media handle, you will see all this warning, all this awareness that people should vacate on the flood prone areas or flood waterways.
All right, Mr. Liu. So as we wind down now, what's the death toll like? Has there been any casualty at all?
You know,
and talk to us about whether the leakage from the dam has been addressed by the government.
Yeah, you know, is a no-go area as of now. So I think there is a lot of responses, but you know, you can't go to where there is leakages until when the water recedes, honestly. Okay. But the government is doing her own base, dredging some of the waterways, deploying excavators, deploying pier loaders, in order to create a free flow for the water. So government is doing her best in terms of that, but you know, we are all human beings. Some people are looking at a laxity of the government. But for the side of the government, honestly, they have done the right thing. They have done, but this is an emergency situation.
You've not spoken to the death toll just yet. Mr. Liu, the death toll, have there been casualties or fatalities recorded?
Yeah, honestly, now we don't have exact number of casualty, but in such situation, definitely there will be a casualty. But like to my own side, I have seen 2 corpses floating on along the river Gada yesterday. But I can't give the total number of casualty. But I think from now on to maybe tomorrow, we will get exact number of casualty, because now we are in that traumatic state, and we are in a chaotic situation. But later on, some people will now know where are their children or where their father, mothers. So from there, on such, we will get exact number of the casualty. But for now, we don't have exact number of casualty. And you know, with a flood disaster, definitely there must be numbers of casualty, because some people were caught and expected. So we don't know whether they have survived or not. And some was being rescued with divers. So as of now, this is what I know about the casualty. Thank you.
All right, we must anchor the conversation from at this point now, but we hope that indeed the waters will continue to recede and there'll be some respite of the rains for now, such that people can stabilize. We want to thank you very much, Mr. Usman Aliyu, the Director General, Borno Great Green Wall, who joined us via Zoom to bring us up to speed with the impact of the floods in Borno State. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
And from here, we go to an equally important conversation. This time, the impact of the pump price of petrol and other issues on agriculture. But that will be after this time out. Join us again.
Well, while we continue to keep our eyes on what's playing out in Borno State and in other areas affected by flood, we turn our attention to yet another big issue, and that is petrol. Oh, yes. Well, petrol is a core ingredient in every facet of our lives. Yes, you may not, visibly put it but it is there. The smell of petrol is evident, either transportation, housing, and, well, the basic one, food, is what we turn our attention to this morning. How the recent hike in the price of petrol is affecting food production country. It was not as good before, but wonder what it is now with petrol prices at 900, 1,000 naira plus. On the program this morning, we're joined by an agripreneur, a dairy farmer, Aminu Murtala Yako, to speak to us about how the sector is doing. You're welcome to the Morning Brief, Mr. Murtala Yako.
Thank you so much for having me.
I know you can say a thing or two about the effect of flood on food production in Adamawa State, in Kaduna, how flooding has affected farmlands, has reduced yield and all of that. So when you see what is playing out in Maiduguri, do you also have an experience as to how flooding is affecting food production before we now get to how petrol is affecting food production?
Well, thank you very much. The honest truth is flooding does affect. I think in the past couple of years, we've always had incidents of flooding that have come in to be able to affect in terms of production of rural farmers, rice, maize, and the rest. But to be honest with you, this is a devastating moment for the state of Maiduguri and possibly other communities downriver. The honest truth is this time of the year is very close to harvest period, and this flooding will just come and really devastate harvest in a very major way. So I think the authorities have to really look closely to be able to further mitigate the food insecurity we've been having in the nation. In the coming months, I think that is when we'll see the full effects of the dam breaking and the flooding that has happened in Maiduguri of recent times.
Oh dear.
But Nigerians are in very trying times at the moment. A lot of loss of lives, property, and livelihood has happened, and I think the government really needs to be proactive in the coming days, weeks, and months to secure life, property, and livelihoods of people.
You know, it's just like making an already bad situation worse. But let's speak to the recent impact of petrol price hike on food production. You have been commended for some innovation you brought into farming, dairy production, and the rest. But that was before the price of petrol was at 900 naira. Now that the price has been increased, we were challenged before. I shall say that. This was a challenge for us before. The question now is, innovation has to triple, has to quadruple. But speak to us first about how this is impacting food production directly, you know, from the farm to the table, now that energy costs are through the roof, literally.
So what you need to understand very quickly is that, you see, over the last couple of years, Nigeria really has grappled with some of these issues, but not at this kind of accelerating rate. For us in Sebore Farms, located in Adamawa State, we've been into the dairy business, and as at the time we started to really go into dairy and backwardly integrating about 18,000 farmers into the formalized dairy value chain, we saw some of these challenges in terms of energy access, which is access to electricity, access to clean fuels for transportation logistics, and access to energy for cooking. This is what energy access means. And what we did on our own side is that we invested in renewable energy to be able to give our factory constant electricity, while also creating a decentralized network of collection centers, milk collection centers, that would allow for us to be able to collect milk from local farmers in rural areas, giving them energy access for cooling of milk and further aggregation. But we commissioned our factory 3 years ago, and we had some very, how would I say it? We had some indices that had not changed. When we started our factory, diesel was 250. Right now in Adamawa is pushing 1,600. Petrol was less than that, and now in Adamawa is about 1,200. So we see people in Lagos and other urban climes complain about 850, 950 in some areas, but we need to understand that the metropolitan areas even have their fuel prices much less than in rural areas because of the extra cost of logistics. I think Nigeria really needs to understand that when you look at national security, one of the dimensions of national security is economic security, food security, energy security, before you start looking at other parts that may affect you, such as physical security, cybersecurity, and the rest. The three components, which are your economic security, food security, as well as your energy security, are critical components because this is what affects the lives of people directly. And for us right now, Esebore, and every small business that I know in and around the country, everyone is grappling with the effects of energy increase that has happened within a very short period of time. Most people need to really understand that when you're actually producing food for a nation, one of the critical cost elements is energy. Energy in terms of electricity for the processing, but you're also thinking about fuel that would help in terms of tractors being powered, delivery trucks, cooling systems for preservation, and even just the logistics of goods and services moving around the country. The critical component of any kind of food security is energy security. And I think over the last years, with the removal of subsidy of the administration, which was extremely necessary and critical, but repurposing subsidied money is important because now we are faced with a very dire situation. And what I mean by this is, in economics terms, we've entered a very detrimental cycle. A detrimental cycle that I will explain is that what you realize right now is with the cost of energy going up, what you're going to see is that cost of goods will go up, which is your primary cost inflation going up. That leads to increase in price. Increase in prices leads to lower profit margin. Lower profit margins lead to a lower demand. Lower demand closes businesses. Closed businesses reduces output and GDP for a nation, which ultimately will lead to further devaluation of our currency in the international scale. And that, what we've realized now is that the reduction in currency is what is also driving our import of the fuels that we require to actually power the nation, and the cycle will continue. I think Nigeria as a nation really needs to sit down right now and really try and break this loop. We tried to do it on our own side by investing in renewable energy in Adamawa State, up to the tune of 5 megawatts of power. Adamawa State as a state only collects 7 megawatts from the grid. But you need to realize also that as we're moving forward like this, not only is fuel pricing increasing, but the administration also increased the tariff on energy. And we need to understand that as a nation, we need to know where we want to go. Are you trying to create jobs? Are you trying to stabilize the nation and increase prosperity of the country? Because as we continue thinking this way, there are critical things that need to be invested today so that we can achieve succor tomorrow. Small businesses are reeling. I think in and around the country, nobody will tell you that businesses have not closed. Man has said it. Almost 18,000 businesses closed last year. And we are not seeing or feeling the effects of a reduced impact on our business activities. The macro situation of the country has to be stabilized so that the micro, small and medium businesses can thrive. With the kind of volatility now in our forex, in our inflation, in our energy prices and cost prices, I think every Nigerian business that is still open right now.
If you can hear me.
Kudos.
Well articulated, I must say. And I'm happy that you're not just anyone, you are a businessman. And so you're giving us blow by blow as to what is going on, practically using your business. If I heard you correctly, it feels like you said, look, the only way I've been able to manage this is I was ahead of the curve by investing in renewable energy. But every other cost component is worrisome. So in your view, is the government too much in a hurry with too many policies all at the same time? And this is why we are where we are?
Yes, frankly, I think we are rolling policies out faster than we're able to educate businesses, organized business, international organizations, as well as our people to be able to follow it into. I know we've been rid with this immediate effect kind of policy making over the last decades. We grew up with it. With immediate effect, you're out. With immediate effect, we're increasing price. Businesses need time to adjust. Businesses need time to plan, allocate resources to be able to buttress this kind of shocks. In pure terms, these are called economic shocks, and economic shocks has to be planned for a nation to kind of understand exactly where it needs to go to, where businesses can plan adequately on where they need to go to. These shocks are very critical, and I'm telling you that the people don't realize that energy, in terms of fuel, are indicative in every single sector of the economy. Like I said, from the production of input into tractors, input into vehicles, small parents taking their children to school. The moment you affect energy, and I think this is maybe what informed our leaders when we had the Petroleum Equalization Fund to be able to smoothen out cost of energy across the nation. Whole-scale changes, the way we're doing it right now, are detrimental to our economy. And we really need to be taking pause in order to kind of reflect on what these impacts will look like. If some of these changes were made and said, okay, by December or January next year, these are going to be the incremental increases in terms of pricing, then people can really sit down and plan and price these things into good and change their strategies. But them happening overnight are things that are more damaging to the economy than most people realize. I know Nigeria's budgetary situation is not in good shape, but the moment you are able to project over a period of time, then people adjust and can allocate resources accordingly, manage their workforce, adjust the labor components, then we can now plan for it. But the way things are happening right now, too many things are changing. I have other colleagues in Kano and Co that have had to shut down their business because their electricity tariffs moved from 6 million naira this month to 42 million naira the next month. And it has wiped away all the profit for the year. These kinds of things are unfair because we know Nigerians are resilient. We know Nigerians are hardworking. We know Nigerians are enterprising. But there's only so much, really, that small businesses that don't have a buffer can actually accept. And the moment businesses close, you need to realize that families are now displaced, families are left vulnerable. We know we have vulnerable populations all across the country, but we know also with these kinds of tariff hikes, you're only decimating the middle class. You're moving everybody that was in the middle class to low income status. And I think every demographic of Nigeria right now, including government, are actually reeling from this kind of immediate policy changes.
Away from policy temporarily now to what may seem to be the environmental impact on agricultural production. And I'm going to explain why I'm asking this part of the question. A few months ago, when the price of tomato and other vegetables shot the rooftop, it was attributed to pest, tuta absoluta, I believe. But we've seen increased production and the price of tomato coming down now and other vegetables. I want you to talk to us about what is responsible for this increase in supply and the moderation in price a few months after we experienced, that scarcity of the vegetable. Perhaps because some people would say that because of insecurity in the north, there's more of activity rather than productivity going on in terms of agriculture in Nigeria's north. And what can be done to reduce the impact of pest on agricultural production, whether it's being done in the north or in the south?
Well, thank you so much for this question. What people need to realize, up north is a very agrarian state and is held by rural farmers. The honest truth is, every year we experience this cyclical cycle of farmers going in, producing tomatoes. There's an increase in supply of the food product, and as price drops. Then towards the dry season, you realize that the production stops, so the prices go back up. This is a cyclical cycle. In every country, what you're actually trying to achieve is a smoothing of that cycle. You actually want a situation whereby you're either producing all year round or you're able to store your excess during the harvest period that can also mitigate you throughout. We know pests, the Ministry of Agriculture has done quite well in terms of its outreach to be able to reduce the or provide pesticides to control, how do I put it, the effects of the tomato. But a very critical point that we need to realize here is that when people say insecurity, look, I operate in Adamawa State, Taraba, and lower parts of Borno, Chibok, and some other places. Most of these farmers are still producing. For me, personally, I attribute insecurity to be about 20% of the problem affecting Nigerian agriculture, while 30% is access to input, access to finance. You also have access to energy in terms of tractors that will enable you to produce a mass scale, and access to sale and distribution. So I'm not a big believer that insecurity is what actually causes our food crisis year on year, because I am operating in the Northeast. I see what our farmers are doing. I see their dedication, resilience, and their need that they want to actually provide economic sustenance or their own economic contribution to the nation. But really and truly, we need to start de-risking our farmers. Our farmers are bearing too much. No other part of the world would you allow your farmers to be taking this kind of load without insurance. What the country needs to do is start to look and pivot inwards to invest in things that reduce the cost of production within the country. That's the only way we are going to be productive. So if you're going to be removing subsidy, you need to be investing in infrastructure that allows for the cost of production to drop. In terms of the energy, you need to be thinking about renewable energy in rural areas or comparative advantages within the geopolitical zone. So whether it be coal, natural gas, biofuels, wind, solar, hydro, we need to be looking at an energy mix that drops the cost of production across the nation down. And we also need to be providing programs that allow our farmers have access to inputs, which is fertilizer, improved seeds, training and education. Things like that are the things that are going to help Nigeria long term. Previous administrations have tried to do this with the Aquabora program, with the program with NISAL, BOI. Everybody has tried it, but I know Nigeria now is in a physical, difficult position. But abandoning those things will only lead to further inflation, which now decimates the income of all Nigerians. I think the administration and everybody needs to be bold in terms of their visioning on what Nigeria needs to achieve.
And, there's a lot that the government needs to do in terms of creativity, right? These are very tricky times and everyone needs to have their thinking caps on. We can't keep doing the same things and expect a different result. That's madness, really. But I want us to speak to the outlook now. The sector which you operate in is said to be a sector that has multiple, value chains, and you have tried to maybe explore some of them. The food business is still meant to be one of the most profitable businesses in the world because that is at the heart of people's needs. When you look at the hierarchy of needs, food survival is basic, so everybody eats. But not everybody might ride in a luxury vehicle or even use a vehicle, but you need to put food in your stomach. So it's meant to be very profitable. So maybe we can also open up the conversation around value chains, look at where we can pay attention to, where we have low-hanging fruits, how government can now say, okay, this area, let's see if we can provide some intervention specifically to this value chain that can then, have a ripple effect across board. So I want you to bring to bear that creative thinking so we can trigger the change that we want to see.
So to be honest with you, like I said, and I always say it, Nigeria is actually blessed with abundance. And I think it's that abundance that doesn't allow us to specialize in things that can actually grow the economy. when a country's currency is being devalued, what you actually need to understand that the things that are being devalued are your labor, your landing costs, and some other things. And that gives you a very significant comparative advantage in terms of agriculture. Agriculture are things that you would put within your land, grow on your land, and be able to create value. And this can affect a majority of your nation without actually too much of investment in education and some other things. So if you look at the country as a whole, well, you need to understand that agriculture is basically divided into livestock and is divided into cash crops. This is at the most basic of categories, but for the international community and in terms of foreign exchange, which Nigeria currently desperately needs, you also need to look at further categorizations. You have tree crops that you can invest in, which is the cocos, the palm, shea butter, baobab, moringa. These are all tree crops that have extreme export potential, and these are scattered all across the geopolitical zones. In terms of fruits and vegetables, pineapples, bananas, strawberries, apples, mangoes, avocado, these things again are things that only grow within the equator side of the world, and Nigeria is sitting right on the equator. So we know that we also have the potential to be able to invest heavily in this and actually get it out. Then if you go into other things such as our cash crops, which are the maize, sesame, groundnut, Nigeria is blessed. And I think what we really need to do is that we really need to sit down and think that every state needs to specialize in what they are known for, what their climate can achieve, and what the people are already known for and know how to do. These kinds of investment, Nigeria is blessed. And sometimes it confuses people of my generation why we're not able to leverage this. I mean, we can leapfrog technologies. There are things that our forefathers did and found prosperous that we are no longer doing or even putting it in context. For us, especially in terms of a policy perspective, what you need to realize is that we need to focus more on food crops, but also on the cash crops. When somebody invests in ginger, you cannot buy ginger. You have to actually sell ginger to actually make an income. When you do palm, you do not lick palm. You actually have to sell palm. These things are a way for us to focus the Nigerian mentality that food crops are important, yes. But food crops, when you invest in food crops directly, local farmers can also keep it for personal consumption. But if you invest in cash crops, you must actually sell it for you to be able to gain income from it. And if you're able to produce it and put it to an international standard, then you can export it. Livestock is something, again, that I am very passionate about. Livestock, because livestock is prevalent in every part. Livestock, you're thinking about the cows, goats, sheep, pigs, poultry. These 5 categories are things that Nigerians can actually produce in, and they also have so many effects in terms of value addition that can be important to be able to unlock value for the Nigerians. So I always say a cow's value as a whole in pieces actually more valuable than the cow. When you're thinking about the milk that can come out of it and the cash flow that can be generated from milk, the meat, if cut properly, what that value will look like. The blood is used for pharmaceuticals, is used for blood meal. The bones as well, you can use the skin for leather products. When you actually look at livestock, which Nigeria has in abundance, you can also create tremendous value. For me, it shocks me that Nigeria is in this kind of situation, and the people that are at the helm right now are not looking at diversifying into agriculture in such a major way that can actually affect the lives of everybody. Look, when you hear me talking like this, I'm only expressing the frustrations of people within our generation that we are seeing our future, because inflation actually eats up the future. Debt actually is future income spent now. Our debt profile as a nation is increasing. Inflation is on the rise. Youth unemployment is on the rise. And I think agriculture is one of the major sectors that it's not, it doesn't go without saying that agriculture is the way for us to be able to unlock value across the country.
All right, Mr. Aminu, as we begin to wind down, I know that there's been that conversation. In fact, a committee has been set up for Ministry of Livestock Development to be drawn out of the Ministry of Agriculture. We'll see how that eventually affects, and maybe input like yours will be considered so that we can really, really do the best we can to make the most and begin to diversify, not just talk about diversification, really do diversification, focusing a lot more on agriculture as it should. But I want to drill down on something you mentioned in passing. The model and the argument has always been that we've been living, they call it fake life, because they're subsidizing electricity, subsidizing PMS before it was removed. So subsidizing consumption was a problem. In your proposal, which you mentioned in passing, is about subsidizing production. Focusing on the space where you are, how best can it be done and how effective can it be done so that we get the kind of output we should get? Because at the end of the day, we're looking at the cost element being brought down, which will trickle down to how much we buy it per unit cost of anything we want to buy.
Okay, thank you for taking out that nuance. You know, when you subsidize in an economic sense, you don't subsidize the consumption. So you don't subsidize the final product. You actually subsidize inputs going into producing the final product. But in a situation like Nigeria and in my sector, what you need to be doing is most of the plant, machine, and equipment that is required for you to be able to unlock value in agriculture currently are going to be imported in. Most small businesses, medium businesses right now cannot afford the price of foreign exchange for you to actually do that importation. So what you actually need to do is that the money that was allocated towards subsidy needs to be allocated towards reducing the cost element for producers. What I mean by this in a simple sense right now, I'm in the dairy sector. Ever since the devaluation, we've not been able to procure any new kind of collection infrastructure because we get this collection infrastructure, which is the milk equipment, the solar components, the battery components, into the country because my cost for doing this kind of importation of plant and machinery increased fivefold over the space of a very short period of time. And we're unable to plan for that kind of expansion. What government needs to do, like I said, is because we're in a state of limited resources, the two components that you need to kind of reallocate your money into is getting plant equipment and machinery into the country so that it comes in at a rate that Nigerians earning in Naira can actually afford. Additionally, we need to be looking at how we get energy all across the nation in the cheapest manner. What we mean by this is if you're going to go back and start revamping pipelines that were initially built in the 70s that were able to move oil to depots in Niger State, in Adamawa State and other places so that marketers can get these petroleum products cheaper across. Moving energy products with trailers and trucks is only adding the cost of diesel that will move the trucks all the way up north. When you're here in places in Sokoto earning, having a fuel price of over 1,800, how do you expect any kind of agro produce or any kind of small business in Sokoto to actually survive? These are some of the things that we really need to look at. We need to be reallocating the subsidy savings into components that actually reduce the cost of production for Nigerians earning in Naira. This is how you unlock value. If not, every small business would actually have to go and source money, and they're only going to do transfer pricing to the final consumer. What we need to do is subsidize investment in infrastructure that reduce the cost of production for the country. If you start doing that, it may not happen immediately, but in 18 months, you start to see the effects of these kinds of investment. Right now, investing in subsidizing either it be rice or buying up farmers for our grain reserves, these things don't do anything because after you buy that, you're only going to increase money supply within the country, which also causes cost push inflation. Fundamentally, over the last 1 year,
Right. Pardon me. Clearly, from what you've said, time is of the essence and work needs to start. as soon as yesterday. But we have to thank you so much. I think this has been a very interesting expose into your sector, the value chains, and what government needs to do. Aminu Murtala Yako, agripreneur, dairy farmer, thank you so much for your time. And thank you for representing our generation, at least in the agriculture sector. Hopefully, other young people will join you in this one. Thank you for your time again.
I pray they come. Thank you so much.
We'll take a moment now. When we return, well, we'll bring to fore that famous line, as it pained them, it is sweet us. What does this mean? You have to stay here to find out. Join us again.
Well, he has many parts to him. You have just seen one part. There are other parts, as Kayode has been singing, says, as they paint them, because they sweet us. He's a gospel artist, he's a performer, he's sensational, that's his name. But his real name, Oluwabamidele Martins Adeko, but we'll call him Sensational Bamidele, based in Port Harcourt, River State, but joining us from the United States. Sensational Bamidele, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Yeah, good morning, brother. Good to see you.
Good to see you. My colleague has been on this. It sweet us, it pain them, as it sweet us. That seems to be one of the big highlights of what we saw play out in politics. But walk us through what you've been doing as far as your journey is concerned. Because I know we had another gentleman like you where we're trying to posit all of his elements. On one hand, we're seeing him do gospel. On the other hand, we see him at political rallies. And it's just like you're everywhere doing what you can. So make sense of what is going on with your craft.
The Bible says the steps of the righteous are ordered by God. And, when a man has a vision that has been given to God, God is the provider. He provides for that vision. So, we have most of our elder brothers who are in gospel ministries, and you find them doing some, social events. I don't call it secular events. They are social events. So we choose them, and, it's so beautiful that God gives us the grace, to shut down those same events with either social song or gospel song. So we don't deviate from where we're bettered from. You understand?
Okay, so there are two songs. So let's get this out as quickly as possible.
Right.
Some have said either you made it popular or you are the originator of the song. Maybe you can break it down for us. The song when Yeson Wike was governor of Rivers State, when he said Wike they come, you know go green, just hold on, but
okay.
Wike they come, you know go green, stay for your house. And then now similar for Fubara, the governor, his own is as they sweet us, he go they paint them. Did you create those songs or you just amplified it? What exactly?
Okay, in Niger Delta and Port Harcourt as a whole, I've paid my dues, and God has given me a talent that every youth, every musician, everyone who's born to learn how to play music or who's born with music would want to emulate. When you emulate success, you're successful. And most of the songs, like as they paint them, it is sweet us. I did that song. It was just a mere word that was always coming out from the mouth of His Excellency, the former governor of River State. And I heard him say that countlessly, and before he knew it, I made it a song. That was in 2015 when he was, about to come in as governor, or before he came in, or when he came in as governor, And I did that song 2015, 2016, and most of these songs have been all done before now. Even before one of our brothers took one of those songs and made it an album in his stuff. We use the scenario, the happenings of the state, to create these songs, and we make it a song that everybody does. But after some period of time, when I had a little challenge, which is last 2 years or so, I decided to leave most of this political singing and decided to face ministry, And but most of these voices you hear are people who emulate me, and before you know it, you think it's sensational that I'm singing. But the former governor's own is as they paint them, they sweet us. This governor own and a day, your day, make a day, my day. Oh, nobody worry, nobody. So
okay.
Every governor carry his own song,
And sensational Bamidele, you bear some kind of resemblance, I may be wrong, to the former governor of Rivers State and current minister of the FCT. I just may be wrong.
How?
Yeah, well, you
Is
bear some resemblance, even the tone of your voice.
it with my voice
Yeah,
or
yeah,
something?
and the face as well. But
Oh, really?
yeah, I read an interview that you granted recently, and you said, and I quote, "I am not a praise singer. I only praise God." But some would say, "Oh, we don't see sensational Bamidele in the camp of the APC, particularly during the 2023 governorship election. We only saw him, performing as a band leader during the campaigns of former governor Nyesom Wike." So some would say, by all means, by every stretch of the imagination, you are a praise singer. How do you respond to that?
I am a praise singer. My name is Sensational Bamidele, the oracle of God's praise, and nobody can delete that fact. In fact, before the campaign started last year, last year, I guess so, I was in the US. I came to take some peace, and came to take some fresh air, and I went back and re-strategized my artistry. I decided that, okay, let me just stay away a bit from campaigns and political rallies and all of that, and I did. But like I said, if you see success and you want to emulate success, you will be successful, isn't it? Now, most of these kids who are singing in River State are emulating Sensational Bamidele. So once they sound, mostly you will just think it's me until you see the originality. You understand? So for a very long time, I've never been doing that. I've not been doing that for a very long time, But I'm not saying it's a bad one. But I have to give myself that space. I am a praise singer, and I go to churches. I go for events in the US right here now. I did more than 5, 6, 7 churches in Dallas, in Atlanta, in New York, in Alabama, in Maryland. I did a lot. In Washington, I did a lot. So I'm just trying to chill so I can come back and start again afresh.
So you're a praise singer for God, not for politicians.
Only Jesus Christ, so not for politicians. So.
Well,
Politicians their own. Sometimes now to take and raise funds so that we can give the less privilege and help ourselves too. The Bible says.
Did the Bible laugh?
You're going to put me for trouble one day.
You said the Bible said. What verse is that? Did the Bible laugh?
Wisdom is profitable to direct. That's what I'm saying. So there are times when you need these funds. Do you know that Destiny Helpers does not pick us again? Are you aware? So there are times when the Lord will provide this thing in presence of your enemy. You have to take it with wisdom and make use of it and extract the uses of it and become an impactation to your generation.
Preach it, Pastor. Preach it, Pastor. Especially because a man's gift is meant to make way for him.
Singing for a politician is not a bad thing.
Right. Okay.
It's not a sin at all. But when you begin to praise a politician to an extent that you carry the praise that you give to God to give to man, and at the end, now your balance where you collect, the guy not add something, then you don't feel.
Interesting. It's a very interesting dynamic. And I think, as you've said, you have been able to pave the way. You've created a niche. Now, a lot of people are coming on board, and once we hear other people, we almost think it is you, but it turns out it's not you most of the time. But you talked about that events that made you sort of re-strategize, and I imagine you're referring to the accident you had, a very sad event, really. And I should say that a lot of people, when they realized it was you, and there was a lot of solidarity, a lot of support, a lot of prayers for you, and it shows the kind of impact you've had, whether or not it's political singing or gospel singing. So speak to us how that turning point has impacted you, or how did it impact you, and perhaps what you drew from that. Do you think that was a warning sign? Do you think that was a moment of God saying, wait, you need to re-strategize? What was it for you, really?
There's a portion in the Bible who says that not all of them who calls him God are truly the sons of God. Are you aware of that portion? And now when they see me in these events and they hear me sing gospel songs, most of them will think, this guy is doing as if he's a pastor. But when that incident occurred, I somersaulted over 9 times. We lost 3 lives, but those in my car and myself were alive. Then people knew that this man not just called God. He's God's own personal son. And when I saw, first of all, the comments, people were like, rest in peace. And some were like, why not allow the family to come and give it a statement? I changed it. I said, look, it is not rest in peace. I am resting in the bosom of praise to my King, who's been able to start and finish the work he started in my life. Because even if it is a Babalawo, he wouldn't have escaped death on that same scene. But let me tell you things. If not that God was on our side, there are things we wouldn't want to just say to avoid, because it's a national television. But I stand to give God the glory for preserving my life. But you know that people magnify bad incidents. If I put a song now on social media, you will not see the magnitude of that. What do you call it? Those what do you call them?
Publicity reports.
The comments on Facebook, because I noticed Facebook, I noticed Channels TV, Arrest TV, this one, that one. I saw it was like, man, God, I say, wow. So I did recognize like this all over this world. Jesus, I give you praise. If I put a song up there now, you will not see more than 100 people sharing it. People like to magnify bad news. You can imagine that kind of a bad news. But when I did a gratitude concert to invite them down to the concert, many of them didn't come. My brother,
Okay.
we have seen, we have experienced, but through the blood of Jesus, we have conquered, and we keep moving, and we move.
Phenomenal. Amazing.
All right.
Jeffrey.
All right, Bamidele, so let's walk back. We're going to get that benefit of, the people you consider your prodigy. For some who I've seen you for the very first time, for some who I've heard of you and, the things they've heard about you, maybe in just a few moments, maybe in about 1 minute, because we're going to make you sing anyway. Before the show is over. Yeah, you're going to do something for us.
Not something. We know what you will do. But go on, Jeffrey.
I just want you to walk us through your journey of how you got here in the first place. Maybe in just about 1 minute if you can.
My journey wasn't truly smooth, but I have never been disappointed, or even when I see disappointment, I don't count it as a loss. I keep moving, in a family where just only 1 or 2 persons are musicians. And sometimes I don't even have time to learn from my elder uncle who introduced me into the music. So I had to struggle it. I see my dad sometimes drop me off at the rehearsals at Garrison Axis where we go to rehearse. And, I started in Assemblies of God Church. And I could remember when I came and, it was a children's day, and the pastor, the late A.E. Merua, asked us to minister, and I started ministering. Immediately after administration, he asked me not to go back to the children's church. Then I was still a kid, that I should stay with this talent and the youth choir, as in the big church. So you can imagine such opportunity. It had to bring me forth into another atmosphere to push harder. The journey was too long, but I give God the glory for bringing me this far. It has not been easy, even in a kingdom like this where there are so many envy. They say bless you, they love you, they smile with you, but some smiles are not coming from the heart of men, because why? You are good. They see something in you they don't want to come in contact with. Might be probably the feel you outshine them. But I know that in this ministry, there's no competition. All you need to do is contentment. We are all children of God, and God is not going to love one children more than the other children because you are doing more. No. So, we just give God the glory, and by his mercies, we're still pushing. The story of my own journey is too long, all the way from the jungle till today that God has given me a glass house, I still give him all the praise.
I was about to respond with an exclamation that is exclusive to the church, but let me just remind myself that I'm right here on the Morning Brief. Speaking of your journey, Sensational Bamidele, we also know that you were involved in some sort of politics before you got here. I want you to talk to us about that. Did that midwife, the Sensational Bamidele that we now know, did it aid the visibility that you now enjoy, and how did that happen?
No, not really. I've never been involved in politics, minus when I sing for politicians. You know, there are a lot of rumors about me. Some people will say the governor has given him one full big hotel. The governor gave me nothing. I worked virtuously for everything. And, you know, probably one day he will do all those things people have been saying about me. I remember when I supported the former governor, you know, before he became a governor, all he did was to make me a caretaking local government councillor in my community, you know, Krika local government in Rivers State, you know, in a way to appreciate me. We've not been the go work too much. We were just visiting the office, doing what we were supposed to do. I received salary, you know. I was just entitled to my wages, and God prepared all of that, and I took them. When it was 6 months, I left the office for the real owners to come and take it, because I'm not a politician, I'm only a musician. But that office was given to just, you know, compliment and appreciate me for the efforts I fixed in, you know, during the campaigns and all of that, you know. That's what it was.
Thank you for your honesty. The nation thanks you because you are very honest. Thank you very much for that. Just before we hear that famous line, by the way, you sing for us. I'm going to stand up to dance. That's as no it is sweet us they pain them. We need to dance to that music. It's been a while.
You know, in the US, it's 2:54 a.m. and I've been waiting all the way from 9 o'clock for this interview. If I had slept, if I had slept, I would have been waking up by 9:40. Say, Che, sorry you.
Oh dear. Thank you for that. But quickly, our viewers want to know, how did Bamidele Adeko become a full-blown Niger Delta man? A lot of people were shocked when they realized, wait a minute, he's Yoruba.
By birth, I'm from Yoruba, Ogun State, Djibouti. But my father did not arrange it well. You know, in River State, if you don't marry the woman completely, the children belongs to the lady. Now, my father left Ogun State, Djibouti, came and dated my mother and did not do the right thing, but he gave birth to the right son from that same wrong thing that he did. So my mother named the son Oluwabamidele after my father named him. My father had to go and meet another woman, marry another woman again. So the woman took what rightfully belonged to her. And I grew up with my grandparents in Okrika, local government in River State. I'm a Port Harcourt boy, a proud Bundu boy. If you have heard of anywhere they call Bundu, it's like Ajegule in Lagos.
Right.
You know, when my mother lost her job, my mother gave birth to me at the age of 18, 19, you know. So when she lost her job, we had to go to Bundu and live with my grandparents so that they would know how to take care of 9 children and we could just be the additional 11. And my granddad, so rest in peace, did very well, nurtured us, you know, trained us, brought us up in the fear of God. And today we are proud children to the family.
So your DNA is Bundu, is just the name that is Yoruba?
My DNA is Yoruba, but the whole entire being is Okrika, not Bundu. Okrika. Do you know Okrika? Have you heard of Okrika?
Yes.
Uncle Jeff will know Okrika, yes. My mother is from Okrika. So until my father will come pay the bride price completely, he has not finished paying it, and I don't go help him pay. So make I just stay there. Uncle stay far.
Sensational, Bamidele. People don't know how talented you are. That's why I say there are so many parts to you. And so we know you're not just a musician. You can crack people up. So it's a combination of a lot of things. So we did say you're going to sing for us. So I will leave that to carry that before we go. I don't know what song he wants you to sing.
Come on, we all know.
This is Sensational Bamidele. So,
you know, God has been so faithful.
Right. So track 2, give us track 2 as they sweet us, they pain them. That's what we want.
At this point, the devil has come severally and God has risen a standard against him. So as the pain devil, it is sweet me, but all my life you have been faithful. Yeah. All my life you have been so good. In every breath that I am able, I will see of the goodness of God.
Yeah, sensational. One more thing before you go. You know, there's a way you transition into your Okrika element. Maybe you can do that for us.
Yeah.
Just in a moment.
Sensational I don't want my uncle to fall under the anointing.
Oh my sensational Bamidele, Olua Bamidele.
Thank you for having me.
Adeko. Thank you so much for staying awake.
Ground of knowledge.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
I want to thank my father for giving me a very beautiful name wherever he is. Kudos to him. He's a good man.
I'm happy you're not Jackpine because when I asked you say you have not Jackpine, so we're expecting you back.
My brother, I need where the original Maggi and salt they inside the soup. They have found where they chop it and they walk. I can't wait to leave. I can't jackpot.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, sensational. Thank you. We appreciate you. Thank you.
God bless you for having me. All
right. Well, thank you. So guys,
so there you have it, sensational Bamidele. As they sweet us, they pain them,
yeah.
as they always say. We have to anchor now.
Sunrise Daily, my day.
Exactly. Sunrise Daily is like, make sure you day right here on Channels Television. I'm Kayode Kikiolu.
Of course, we'll be back tomorrow with another sensational edition. Thank you for watching. I am Bukola Kuka.
It feels like Friday with what we just watched. But it's Wednesday. We'll be back again tomorrow. Thank you for watching. I'm Jeffrey Uzama.